Hey, Sandals Church men, I want to talk about just a couple things today. First of all, I want to follow up on a video that I did a couple weeks ago where I talked about becoming a real man and what that means. And I talked a little bit about there's some areas in our lives where we're boys and not men. And that actually got some feedback from some of you guys. I think it was uncomfortable. Some people really just didn't like it. And so I want to just follow up and really explain what I mean, because I failed to give some examples of how we act like boys and not men. And if you've been around Sandals for a while, you've probably heard Pastor Matt talk about this. It's actually a problem in our culture. A lot of us have perpetuated boyhood. And let me give you some examples of what I mean. Many of us struggle with the responsibilities of manhood, such as providing for family or becoming emotionally intelligent or knowing how to be in a marriage or knowing how to be a father or knowing how to just take care of basic responsibilities in life. And those things come at the expense of boyhood things like hobbies. So there's many men in our church who know all the sports statistics. They know what's going on in the world of sports, which is not happening right now, but in general life. And yet they don't know what's going on in their marriage. They don't know how their wife feels. They haven't asked any questions about that. And I think that's a problem. That would be a sign of boyhood. For me, it's pouting. I often, if I don't get my way or my wife upsets me or she says something that makes me feel insecure, rather than having a mature conversation, my natural response is to pout, to be silent or to get angry and kind of seethe and to not deal with the situation. That's an example of boyhood. To put off responsibilities to have fun. I love to golf. I love to eat. I love to hang out with my friends. I love to do all those things. But sometimes they come at the expense of my family responsibilities. And so those are just a couple examples of how we can be boys. You know, we maybe are mature in our job, but as Christians, we don't even spend time reading our Bible or praying or doing those things. We, kind of converse with people, maybe friends from high school or coworkers, and we can talk about non-important things like cars and whatever else that you're interested in, computers, video games. But we have a hard time talking about real things, important things in our lives, how we're really feeling on the inside, how our marriage is doing, how we feel about being a dad. And those are signs that boyhood has remained for us and manhood is a challenge. And so my intent wasn't to be critical, it's to challenge you. I need to be challenged. I find myself acting as a boy often, and it's really important that I observe those things. And they're not always sinful, they're just immature. And I need to grow through that. I need to confess it. I need to talk about it and really find a way to grow into manhood. And that's why we value community so deeply, so that we can work through those boyhood things and not just kind of pat each other on the back and say, well, we're guys, so we just think that way or act that way. But to challenge each other and say, no, it's time to stop thinking and acting that way. It's time to stop looking at pornography because that's what boys do. Especially for married men, right? You have a wife and you're looking at something to satisfy you. That's a boyhood thing. Now, there's reasons for it, and I think this is really important. A lot of us haven't wrestled with the fact that we're insecure as men. Most of us have those insecurities, if you're really honest. And for some of us, we're really hurt by our earthly fathers. Some of you weren't affirmed as a man. You weren't shown that respect or told what it looks like. And so you're insecure about it. So when someone says you're being a boy, you take offense to it because it hurts. And my goal is not to wound, it's to challenge. And if you have those wounds, I want to encourage you to seek healing, seek counseling, seek conversation with your small group, seek ways that you can work through those things, be really honest about them, not cover it with humor or distraction or hobbies, but to really address it and work through that. So I want to challenge you with that. And of course, secondarily today, not secondarily, but the second thing I want to talk about is just where we're at as a country. And I'm not making any official statements about racial reconciliation because I'm not qualified to do so. I haven't had to suffer the kind of racism that so many of our black brothers and sisters have in this country. And so here's what I want to challenge you to do. I want to challenge you to pray. We know that prayer is going to be the thing that moves people, that changes hearts. And I want to encourage you toward compassion. I think it's important, even if you don't understand or it hasn't been your experience, that you try and put yourself in someone else's shoes. And so if you're a black man watching this, man, I love you. I'm so glad that you're part of our church. I'm so glad that we have fellowship in Christ and that we can bridge those gaps. My son is an African American. He was born in Africa, and I'm so thankful that he's in my life. And man, to be honest, I sometimes fear for what his future looks like if we don't figure this out. Just that there's things that could happen to him that had nothing to do with anything that he did other than his skin color. And so I think it's important to have compassion, to not focus on, well, these violent outbreaks or whatever you want to say about them. Of course they're wrong, but what we fail to do when we focus on that is the reality that people are hurting and they're trying to cry out. They're trying to get our attention. They're trying to say, listen to us. And I think it's really important that we recognize that we love them, that we listen to them, and that we engage in relationships. Man, I hope that your small group is diverse. And if it's not, man, invite people in that don't look like you. I think it's important for us to do that. It's important to associate with people that can give perspective and really teach us. I'm going in as a learner because I don't know everything there is to know. I don't know all the history. I don't know what it feels like to walk in their shoes. And I want to encourage you toward that, to be compassionate and to pray and to engage in relationships with people who don't look like you. So if you're a black man, thank you for your patience. And my hope and prayer is that you find just solidarity and friendship and commitment on behalf of your brothers and sisters at Sandals Church. So we love you and love you men, praying for you. I hope that you're challenged by this and not offended. And please feel free to comment back and let me know how I can pray for you or serve you. God bless you guys.